It is thought that the most advanced piece of tech that a civilization makes is a good representation of them. And for the three major races in the Galactic Confederation, that technology was a specialized version of FTL drive. Starting with the sharp-minded Nivlins, who themselves were a cliff-dwelling species that by a galactic standard are small, around 50% smaller than the average. And thus much of their technology represents that. When the Nivlins reached prominence in the stars and developed an FTL drive, they optimized for size. Compared to the other two dominant species, it is almost a fourth the size without any loss of power. This allows ships equipped with their drive to be smaller, or more likely repurpose the leftover room for other things, like cargo or luxury cabins. Then there is the Xerok, who had a homeworld with lots of space, but very little in the way of useful resources. There are many barren gravel fields of little more than limestone and harsh mountains on their home. Thus, they needed to make every ounce of iron or other element count. This almost zealot-like efficiency is proudly on display in their FTL. A Xerok drive can travel the same distance as others with about 2/3 the fuel. That may not seem like much, but when you are talking millions of tons of metallic hydrogen to move a bulk cargo liner, that is an astronomical savings. And then my people the Yelves, who have a homeworld covered in large open grasslands and is also home to a massive avian predator. Due to this threat, we grew to be extremely fast sprinters, so that our ancestors could dart back to burrows before getting snatched into the purple sky. So, when we took over the sky that our ancestors had feared, we put our speed into our drives. Our drives are on average 10 to 15% faster than other models. This is awesome for smaller transport and passenger vessels, as well as valuable cargo, as it limits the amount of time that it might be intercepted. There are a handful of other space-bound peoples, but many of them are not yet at the point of developing their own specialized FTL. And for the time, all are more than happy to use the models that the three major races are offering. Then just 65 cycles back, our community met the humans. They were odd, but not too weird. When we discovered them, they had spread out through their home system and had a small foothold in the next star system over. As expected, they were still using skippered drives, which are simpler to discover, but far less useful and flexible than to-the-point drives that are the standard for FTL. First contact went extremely well, and besides a bit of shock for the historians about the human past. When that was cleared up and with a hesitant go-ahead from the historians, they were invited to our little confederation. Things started to get interesting when we offered to sell them point drives for their ships. You see, most species before them that we offer drives are overjoyed and more than happy to buy them. I mean, why would they not be? The difference between the two is like trying to run underwater compared to running on a low-gravity moon. But the humans were not so interested in the drives and instead wanted the information on how they were manufactured. We tried to explain that they needed to expand their industry far past where they were to even come close to what was required to make a point drive. But they still insisted, with one diplomat saying, "Just sell them to us, and if we cannot do it, we will have to come back and buy them from you. So I don't see why you have a problem with this." So, we agreed to sell the data on how to make point drives, along with a handful of drives to retrofit into their current ships. We soon learned that humans are very good at mining and resource extraction, as well as trade. And they soon became an impressive trading partner for such a new people. Along with the usual things that they were buying, they bought many point drives from us, and we all but forgot that we ever sold them the basic instructions on how to make one. Then the truly unexpected happened. The human diplomat invited some of the other species to see their newest breakthrough. I was no engineer, but even I could see that it was an abomination of a point drive. But it worked. It was almost 1/3 bigger than the standard drive, and as some engineers we brought pointed out, was 4% slower and 5% less fuel efficient than average. Despite all this, the ambassador and the crew of the ship were beaming with pride, and we could not deny that it was impressive that now a species with just 3 solar systems had managed to produce a functioning point drive. About a month later, we would learn that they had already specialized their drive. When the first report started coming in from traders working with humans, we did not take a single word as more than a shock trader trying to get through the shock of a narrow escape. These reports were all pertaining to pirate attacks and how when the pirates targeted, then got good hit on human drives to disable them, as was common practice for the pirates, they were still able to jump away. No one on the council thought this to be true, but we asked the ambassador, and he said, "Yes, that is all true, give me a couple of days, and I can show you." True to his word, a couple of days later a smoking trade ship docked with the station that served as the Confederation meeting place. We then were invited on board this obviously damaged ship. The captain introduced themselves and explained that they had just got away from a group of pirates and headed here at the ambassador's request. When we got to the engine room, I think one of the Xerox engineers who was accompanying me nearly passed out. To our left was what was obviously a hull breach, patched with void foam. And in front of us was one of the human-built FTL drives, with a massive hole in the side. The captain introduced us to the head engineer, who elaborated that they got hit with a railgun, and the slug was still in the FTL drive. True to her word, you could still see the glowing lump of slag and projectile in the hull. The engineer also went on to tell us that, after this they were submitting a complaint with the drive's manufacturer, as they lost 40% efficiency after the strike, and the manufacturer said that the loss would only be 30%. What kind of insanity is that their biggest problem is 10% less efficiency when they have a still smoking hole in the side of their FTL drive? Author's name and link to original text is in the description.